Hello, everybody. Welcome into part 2 of the cycle for this week. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Mike Maher. We are talking some buys, some sells, and of course, Waiver Central. We already did Rounding the Bases, so you can catch that on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast if you haven't seen it already. And of course, coming up later in the weekend, we've got our Streaming Pitchers episode as well. Maher, let's start with you on your buy low.
So my buy low is, and I wrote him up on this week's article on FantasyPros, is Cam Smith. And I think it's kind of a buy low. It's also kind of a pickup before someone else picks him up situation, because he was a really hyped prospect coming into the season, got up to a really slow start, and he's quietly been pretty good lately. If I pull up the splits here, he batted over 300 in May after a really rough start to the season. So he batted in April 213 with 3 home runs. So he had a little bit of power, but batted 213. In May, he pretty quietly batted 307. And I only know that because I roster him in a couple of leagues, and I've just resisted the urge to drop him because I still believe in the talent. And I think this is one of those situations where, we've talked about it a bunch, where a young hitter comes up, he struggles. It's just, we're in this situation where the pitching at the major league level is so much better than the pitching they're seeing at the minor leagues that almost all of these hitters need an adjustment period. A lot of them get sent down. We just saw Christian Campbell, the Red Sox, get sent down today. And Cam Smith didn't get sent down. He kind of got sat down on the bench a few times where they just gave him a breather. And I almost feel like this might be Cam Smith 2.0, even though he didn't get sent down like a lot of these other guys, like Jackson Holliday. It's almost like he just kind of hung around and he's just kind of working through it. And even in the first 2 weeks of June, he's batting .321 with 2 home runs. He hit both those home runs in a game the other day, but he's still not very rostered. And so you hopefully wouldn't even have to trade something to get him. But we're probably a few games to a week away more of this from him being rostered in a ton more places. So you can kind of, it's not necessarily like a buy low window is closing, but it's like if this is like the breakout, he's not going to be available soon or for long.
Where do you have him rest of the season?
I was just moving him around before. I've moved him, like a lot of players. I resist moving them too much, or I'm just kind of slide them down throughout the season. I've moved him up and down a bunch of times this season. And he's also outfield and third base eligible. So for third base, I have him at 18. And it's probably, I moved him down recently. I'm going to bump him up to 16 right now. I still had Vientos pretty high. I'm going to drop Vientos down. What are your thoughts on Cam Smith before I ask you some of these rankings?
I don't really have him anywhere. The few places I did, he is somebody I moved on from earlier in the year. I think the point that I would just emphasize, and it almost feels weird because I feel like we say it all the time, is just a reminder of you can pretty much throw out the first month-ish of any prospect, even the best of the best prospects. The transition to Major League pitching has never been harder than it is right now, it feels like. And I've lost track of the number of names we've talked about in this context of it's a slow start, adjusting to the big leagues, or a guy coming up for his second stint in the big leagues and him doing so much better. Again, we could probably list 25 names if we wanted to, of guys who that's been the case for in the last couple of years. So whether it's a guy in his second stint or a guy that's kind of seemingly taking a big step after that early struggle, that tends to be the type of player I'm very interested in buying in on, the way we've seen this pattern go so many times recently.
Yeah, and for him, he's still young. He's 22 years old. He never even played in AAA. He just kind of flew through the minor leagues, in 2024. And he didn't play in AAA. He barely played in single A and double A. So he was drafted in 2024 in the first round. And then in 2024, he played 15 games at low A, 12 games at high A, 5 games in double A. That's the only time he spent in the minors. He made the team out of spring training in 2025. This kid's never been in the minor leagues, basically. And so he's learning on the job. It's kind of incredible that he's doing as well as he is based on that and what we know about Major League pitching.
Yeah. Did you give an answer on the rankings?
I had him around, so third base, I had him around like 18. I'm going to bump him up a little bit now that, because I had dropped him down when he was cold. I moved Vientos down. Would you rather have Isaac Paredes or Cam Smith?
I'd rather have Paredes.
Okay. Yeah, he's batting 252 with 15 home runs. I feel like the ceiling's higher for Cam Smith, but like the thing with like these rankings, and you're trying to like project like not like the safest value, but like the most likely value. And as much as I want to rank for upside, like there is as much chance that Cam Smith breaks out and is a top 10, top 6 third baseman the rest of the year as there is that you just drop him in a week or two and it's just over for this year. I like to think that this is the breakout coming and I want to rank him more aggressively, but it would be hard, like especially if it's like, did you have to drop Paredes to pick up Cam Smith? I don't think I could pull the trigger on something like that. It's kind of how I like, like when you're making the final call on rankings, that's kind of like the tiebreaker I use sometimes. It's like, would I drop this player for this player if I had to? And if the answer is no, that's kind of where the breaking point is for my rankings.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll go to my buy low. This is Colton Cowser, and he did hit a home run yesterday. It was. So, if you're looking just a day ago, not a buy low. But in general, he has not had a very good season. He's batting 190. His OPS is at 720. It's worth noting that his season barely started before he, messed up his was it his thumb, I think it was, diving into first, which I hated watching in the moment and obviously hated not having him playing outfield for the Orioles for several weeks. And he's still kind of working his way back in, kind of shaking off that rust, that early season kind of look you see a lot of hitters have. But he's hit a couple of home runs. He's hit home runs in back-to-back days, first of all. He's had 3 since June 7th. His batting average has risen over 20 points since, in the last 2 weeks. And I think even if you the problem with Colton Cowser is the strikeouts, right? Like if you're in a league that penalizes strikeouts, it's going to hurt you. And I do think that'll get better, as we get further into the season and he shakes off more of that rust. But it's not like he's been a low strikeout guy in the past. Like right now it's 36.5% strikeout rate. I think it'll get closer to 30. But it's not going to get too much lower than 30 in a best case scenario. But this is a player with a lot of power, and he can really impact the ball. His barrel rate is the highest of his career at 17.1%. He's not walking a lot. I think that will go up as the strikeouts go down. Again, I think that's kind of that facsimile of an early season player shaking off the rust. And the expected batting average is low. He's not a guy you have on your team for batting average. Again, I think that'll go up as he gets further and further, like more back into the playing every day. But he's hitting the ball hard. His average exit velocity is 92.5 miles per hour. Again, the barrel rate's really high. The Orioles need him to be good, and I think he will be. I almost was going to say Jordan Westburg for a similar reason, coming back off injury, as a buy high, but he's just been too good that I think you're probably going to have to overpay to get him. But Cowser's struggled, relatively speaking. I think the power will come. I think he'll be at like a 25 home run pace the rest of the season, even if he's not going to hit that number because of the missed time. I think the average will get up to well above 200. Not that that's, anything to brag about.
Well above 200.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, I think he'll be a power hitting outfielder for you the rest of the way, and he's pretty attainable. I can't imagine anybody would ask for too much to trade him away right now if you offer them really anything of substance. So I like Colton Cowser, even with the horrid strikeout to walk ratio.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of chance, like you can't take this chance in a points league because the strikeouts are just going to kill you. It would have to be like in a roto categories or head-to-head categories kind of league. Yeah, it's an upside play. I also would probably prefer if you could pull him, like if you could pick him up and sit him and like make sure this continues and just so he doesn't kill you for a week. That's also an ideal scenario. If you have to pick him up, start him right away, it's kind of hard to stomach, even though he is heating up right now.
I think Jordan he's the type of guy in a trade that like you get Cowser thrown in for the upside.
Jordan Westburg is a player I have to move back up in my rankings now that you mentioned him, because I had him really buried because he was really, really bad and then went to the IL, but now he's back and looking like himself.
Yeah,
he looks a lot more like himself. For third base, how high would you put him rest of the season?
I don't want to look at the rankings. Let me pull up
Right now, I have him. While you do that, I have him like right in the same area of Cam Smith. I feel like he needs to be much higher than Cam Smith at this point. Cam Smith. That's because I had buried him before. Now I have to bring him back up.
Right now in consensus, he's 14th at third base. I think that's too low. Like, he's behind Josh Young. He should be higher than him. He's behind Matt Chapman. I think he should be higher than him.
Josh Young. I have Josh Young at 24.
Yeah, I don't know why Young is so high. I wonder if somebody just has him ranked really weirdly high. There must be average.
Some aggressive rankers. Yeah.
Michael Garcia, is okay. Kind of depends what you're looking for out of that player. Paredes gonna have more power, but I think Westberg better overall. Eugenio Suarez, obviously, he's hitting a ton of home runs now. I don't know what I think about that in terms of rest of season. Bregman is ahead of him. We'll see what this injury kind of length and coming back from it. Junior Caminero has obviously been really hot, but I think he belongs Westberg in. I don't want to sit here and tell you every single name in order because I would want to spend more time than shooting from the hip on that. But on kind of initial glance, I think Westberg should be inside the top 10, like maybe at 10. I'm not saying super high. But
I just moved him to 10.
Yeah, I think 10 is the right spot for him.
I moved him right after Chapman.
Yeah, so I like him. Obviously, I like Cowser too as a buy low. Let's go to your favorite sell high.
My favorite sell high is TJ Friedl, and it's a player that I actually like. In TJ Friedl, it's a player that, like, I feel like this player, I always have him at like the wrong times. Like when he was breaking out in 2023, I didn't have him everywhere, and then I had him a bunch of places last year because I was like, wow, if he was that good in 2023 and we didn't even get a full season, I would love to get like 20 home runs and maybe 30 stolen bases out of him with a decent batting average. And then last year was a disaster. And then I kind of stayed away from him a little bit this year, especially because he was kind of banged up coming into the season. I was like, nope, seen this show before. Even though I like the player, I'm staying away. And now he's batting .288 with 8 home runs and 9 stolen bases and looking really good again. However, when I do my research for these sell highs, I look for a lot. Like, I try to find a player where either there's a ton of hype right now, and I feel like the narrative has gotten ahead of it, or I go purely numbers based and I just start looking at like expected numbers. And if I can find someone whose expected numbers across the board are worse than their actual numbers, then that throws up the red flag for me and that player becomes a sell high. And that's exactly what happened with TJ Friedl. Batting .288, expected batting average is .250. And when you look at expected slugging, average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, they're all 10th percentile or worse. And he makes up for that with like some like elite like chase and whiff numbers, and like strikeout numbers in general. But it's an odd profile that I think can kind of come unraveled depending on how things go. And I think even if he stays healthy, it's going to lead to some regression. And so he is someone I'm selling high for if I can flip him for a pitcher that I need. And we can do the names next, but we'll see what you think first. Back to you, Worm.
I don't have a ton to add. I think he is also somebody that I have not really ever had at the right time in the past. I like the player, so this would really depend on the return I'm getting. But I think the process is very sound by you in terms of why he makes sense to look into potentially selling him.
Yeah, so some of the names I used the FantasyPros trade value chart to kind of like match this up a little bit. And as I say every week, I try to do hitter for pitcher. But how about Chris Bubich?
I would rather have Bubich, I think.
What about Nick Pivetta?
I'd rather have Pivetta.
Robbie Ray.
Ray's been better this year than I expected. I think I'd go Ray.
Shota Imanaga.
I just don't like messing with injury stuff. I think I go Friedl.
And then, elite top 10 pitcher himself, Christopher Sanchez.
I will go with Christopher Sanchez. Do you disagree with any of those picks by me?
Those are all the names I put that I would flip him for. So I am on the Friedl side of all of those. The pitcher side of all of those. Okay. Selling Friedl on all.
I was about to be very surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a pitcher here in my favorite sell high, and it's Spencer Strider, obviously coming off of a terrific start against the Rockies. That is his most recent start, right? I'm not making that up. I'm not like forgetting one.
I think he's pitching
randomly.
today. He's pitching today.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, because that has been a few days. I was now nervous if I was missing one. Yeah, he is pitching later today against the Mets. So we'll see how that goes. But as of Thursday, when we're recording this, he's coming off of his best start of the season, by a mile, obviously. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 13 strikeouts. But, of course, this came at home against the Rockies, who are terrible. And my thought here is twofold. On the one hand, there's still an inherent injury risk here, right? Just given what he's coming back from and the fact that he's had other injuries this year, even besides the arm. And also has not looked very good. Now, it's very easy to paint the picture that he was just shaking off the rust and is now something closer to being back. But also, I think it's easy to paint the picture of it was one really good outing, and it was against the worst team in baseball. So I want to see more before I'm starting to think of him as an ace again. And I think it's very worth looking around the league and reaching out if somebody needs pitching, or if there's somebody in your league who is a really big, aggressive trader, and say, hey, he just struck out 13 guys in 6 innings. Strider's back. You make the case that he's shaken off the rust now and see if you can get somebody really good back for him, because I think that's possible. So for me, it's less like, oh, I need to get out of the Strider business forever, and more like this is such a good start if you just look at the stat line and not the opponent, and being the big name that Strider is as a fantasy baseball ace, I think it's worth kind of putting out some feelers, seeing what kind of interest you could get for him.
I agree with the take in theory. However, he looked really good in that latest start. He looked like Spencer Strider of old, and not just because it was the Rockies, and not just because he got 24 whiffs in that game, but his velocity was way back up too. He touched 98 in that game. Like, he was hovering like 94, 95 before, and this was the first time since he came back where it really looks like he was comfortable being himself, and he was lighting up the radar gun again. Now, obviously, that comes with its own injury concern if he was kind of overthrowing, and we've seen what high velocity can do to arms. But it is hard for me to sell, especially if I drafted him and stashed him, and like you said, he dealt with another injury. I think it was a hamstring injury, and then he kind of came back, and you were like, oh God, he doesn't look like himself. Like, I've waited all this time. What am I going to do now? And now he does look like himself. It's hard for me to sell now that I finally got what I was hoping for.
I get it, but I'm not looking to sell. I'm looking to sell for a really good player based on the name value here and what we just saw. So I think if you're getting a really good player that offers you a bit more safety and security moving forward, that's still worth it, even if you're sitting here thinking, wow, he's finally back.
Do you have any thoughts of what you would want in return off the top of your head, or no?
It's really hard to answer that because I think that's going to be really dependent on the other managers in your league. Like, I think you could throw out names that maybe sound like they're too good to make a trade like this, and I think you could also throw out names that are like, oh, that's way lower, and depending on the league, that might be the direction it goes.
What about...
He's 16th in our rest of season rankings, by the way, at pitcher.
A pitcher. Where do I have him? He's another one I've moved up. I moved him way up, and then once he came back, I was like, uh-oh, maybe drop him back down. I have him 16th.
That's exactly where he is in consensus.
Okay, so that's where I have him. I might bump him up a little bit based on that. So sell high. Would you trade him for? I'm gonna aim on a little higher on the list here. How about Matt Olson? You think that's in the area you could get?
I think so. Well, I mean, again, it depends on the managers in your league, but I bet there are leagues out there where you could do that.
Or even better, an injured Bryce Harper. It seems like he's working his way back, but he is currently injured.
Yeah.
You might be able to get Bryce Harper.
I think he was throwing earlier today, last I saw. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, he throws and took dry swings. This was an update 15 minutes ago, so I just saw it.
How about Devers? What if one of the managers is panicking about the Rafael Devers trade?
I would trade Strider for Devers.
Yeah, it's probably hard at third base though to give up a third baseman like that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an easy to do one, but I would do it.
Some of these other names that are right around the same value, I don't know that I would do it. Oh, here's one from our first segment. What about Seiya Suzuki?
Ooh,
your boy.
I think I'd probably rather have Strider. That's a fun one. They're 2 spots apart from each other in rest of season rankings.
There you go.
Yeah. So, just send out some feelers. Like I said, see what is an option to you, because with the name value, it might be more than you think, depending on the league you're in. All right, you train hard, you show up, but lately something feels off. Fatigue lingers, recovery takes longer, and your performance isn't where it used to be. These might be signs of low testosterone, a condition affecting about 30% of adult men in America. Kaisertrex is an FDA-approved testosterone replacement therapy designed for men like you. It's not an injection and it's not a gel. It's a twice-daily pill that fits seamlessly into your active lifestyle, helping restore your testosterone to optimal levels. Don't let low T hold you back. Visit Kaisertrex.com to learn more and find a provider near you who can help get you started. That's KYZATREX.com. By prescription only, Kaisertrex is a controlled substance and can be a target of abuse. Kaisertrex is not for use in pregnant women or men with prostate or breast cancer. Safety and efficacy in those younger than 18 is not known. Tell your doctor about all medical conditions and medications. Serious side effects could include increased blood pressure, worsening prostate symptoms, increased risk of prostate cancer, blood clots in the legs or lungs, decreased sperm count, liver problems, enlarged or painful breasts, and breathing problems while you sleep. Common side effects include swelling of the ankles, feet, or body, increased red blood cell count, and increase in prostate-specific antigen or PSA levels. PSA is a test used to detect prostate cancer. Report these symptoms to your doctor. Call your doctor to learn more about Kaisertrex. For questions or more information, visit www.kaisertrex.com or call 1-833-949-5040. Okay, waivers
Nice.
Central.
I got to do that read while you were gone one time. That was my first Kaisertrex read.
I probably could get through that read twice in the speed it takes you to get through it once. That's my prediction.
I don't have a good comeback for that.
Well, do you think
I
I'm
went
right
pretty
or wrong?
fast, though.
You went fast?
I went pretty fast with the Kaisertrex read.
Yeah, well, it's not an easy read
For
to
me.
be fast on. So, all right, Waiver Central. My favorite hitter. I've got Brady House here. This is a prospect that I really liked when he was first drafted. We talked about him a bit in the first segment of this week's The Cycle show. 22 years old, very available. He's 7% roster on Yahoo, 4% roster on ESPN. I forgot to look up CBS, but it's going to be higher than that, but not crazy high, I wouldn't think. Just a player that was a really good prospect in high school, had a slow start to his minor league career, but has become a good prospect again, and has gotten off to like a hot start. It's very early, right? Like 11 plate appearances, I think, as of the time we were putting together this sheet. So, I'm not saying that that's the hitter he is, but batting over 350, he's walking. I just think he's a good player. He's going to get, I would assume, as many at-bats as he can handle because the Nats aren't like competitive, so they'll kind of let him learn and figure it out. And third base is not an easy position to fill, so I would pick him up. You're probably not starting him right away, but I want him on my roster in case he hits the ground running, maybe better than some of these other prospects have in recent years.
Depending on how you're doing at third base, you might start him right away. I'm starting Connor Norby in a couple leagues. I might start him over him.
Yes, I'd rather start Brady House than Connor Norby.
Also, very fun name. His two names are, one half is the best sitcom from the 70s, and the other half is from the best sitcom in like the 80s and 90s.
What's the best sitcom? Which is House?
Full House.
Oh, okay. I was thinking, I get it now. I thought you were saying
Brady
like,
Bunch and Full House.
No, I got you now. I was thinking like the full, because like there's a show called House, and I was like, well, that's not a sitcom, so what is he talking about?
No.
I see, you meant half of it. Okay, yeah.
Brady Bunch, Full House.
I thought about that. Yeah. No, I got it now that you explained it. It's all right. That's my fault. That was a good joke by you. That's not your fault. That's on me. Do you like Brady House as a pickup?
I love him as a sitcom, but I do. I have him in a couple. He's a player. Actually, the other the other player you mentioned this week is also a player that I like. But they're both players that I targeted in Dynasty, and so I do have a bunch of shares of both of them. And obviously, in most of those leagues I had to draft House earlier because he came out a couple of years ago. But I do like him. He's got some swing and miss in his profile, so that's going to be a thing that you have to deal with. But also, he's kind of gotten better as he's gone along, and numbers in AAA where like he's not someone that they'd like just called up because they were like, all right, let's we stink. Let's call him up. He was batting 304 with 13 home runs in 65 games. He earned it, even though he struck out 26% of the time, 26.5% of the time. That's kind of been his profile. That's kind of be, I wouldn't be surprised if his strikeout rate goes over 30 for for these first few weeks while he's struggling. But right now it's only 7.7% through 3 games. But pretty small sample size. But yeah, he's like a big kid with a power profile. I like a Brady House. Like you said, it's like a broken record. We keep saying it over and over and over again that these young hitters, they come up and they struggle. And so you kind of have to expect it at this point until we see differently. But he is a prospect that I really like, really high pedigree there that I've liked for a few years. So I'm happy to see him finally debut. Yes, and third base is so thin. I agree with adding him everywhere you can.
Speaking of young players, by the way, just while we're recording this, the Royals rookie Jack, I actually think I might have been mispronouncing his last name, but they're great prospect. How do you pronounce his last name? Have I been getting it wrong?
I think it's just like Caglione.
Because there's the second N in there, so I'm like, is it Caglione?
Caglione, no. I think anyway, just pretend that's not there.
He has 2 home runs today. That guy's a stud. He's gonna figure it out really fast.
Yeah.
All right, your favorite hitter we already talked about.
Nick Kurtz is getting hot too. Speaking of young hitters, who did I talk about? Oh, so we already talked about him in a previous segment. I double dipped on Cam Smith, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on Cam Smith because I already just talked about him as a buy low and why I like him. But yeah, my favorite hitter to pick up this week is Cam Smith, and it's for a lot of the reasons we just talked about. Brady House, third base is really thin. Cam Smith has been quietly pretty good, and like we already said, he may have already gone through that rookie struggle, that early struggle, and we could be on the other side of it. And so you get third base, outfield eligibility. He's been hitting over 300 for about 6 weeks now, which is a pretty long time to be batting over 300. And yeah, I'm interested in Cam Smith. We don't have to spend a ton of time there. We already talked about him a bunch.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll find a way to bring him up as like our 2-star pitcher competition somehow too. All right, favorite pitcher for me, it's Chase Burns, and this is one I like to get out ahead, and I'm sure our listeners have noticed this, that I like to get out ahead of like the top prospects before they're actually called up. And Chase Burns, very available. He's 14% rostered in Yahoo, 4% rostered in ESPN. Once again, I forgot to pull up CBS on this one. 22 years old, drafted out of Wake Forest, really good pitcher who the Reds have promoted pretty aggressively. Just 8 weeks ago, promoted to Double-A, recently up to Triple-A. And is just like arguably the best pitching prospect in baseball. And the Reds have been dealing with injury to Hunter Green, obviously. I think their 5-starter is like Wade Miley or somebody. I mean, it's like there's an opportunity here if they decide to give him the chance. So I like Chase Burns, the prospect. And pitchers, I have less of a worry about coming up and making that initial transition. So I want to have him on my roster before there's a rush to pick him up when he does get called up.
Would you say that Chase Burns is excellent? Simpsons reference for you.
I knew it was a Simpsons reference, which obviously we've discussed. I have not seen. Yes, I guess.
I love Chase Burns. He's one of my favorite prospects. I drafted him in the Dynasty League we're in together. I drafted him in 2 other Dynasty Leagues. This offseason, there was one where I couldn't believe he fell to me. I was like, what are you guys doing? Yeah, he's the 2nd overall pick last year, and he's already flown through the minor leagues, this year. He's knocking on the door. I was really enjoying looking at his Fangraphs page because they included some of his college stats on there, which I haven't seen a ton of that happening before. And in 2024 in Wake Forest, 191 strikeouts in 100 innings, which is pretty incredible. And he's kind of done more of the same, like not quite at that level, but the high A, 20 strikeouts in 11 2/3 innings. Double-A, 55 strikeouts in 42 innings. Now he's in Triple-A. He's already got 14 strikeouts in 12 1/3 innings, all with very low ERAs as well. He's just like got electric stuff. I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he is the kind of pitcher who can come up and be successful right away because I think he could be that good.
He's rostered at 62% of leagues in CBS, so that's drastically higher than usually CBS is higher. That's a lot higher, but that's also still means 38% of leagues he is still available to pick up and stash. So I would look to do that. Honestly,
Yeah.
in
CBS
fact,
is a little bit sharper of a platform and also has a few more dynasty leagues. So that's not it's always higher.
yeah, I'm in a keeper league that I'm looking at right now to see if I want to, because he's available in this one, who I would want to drop to get him. Unfortunately, I have a lot of injured players, so I don't have a ton of wiggle room with dropping people. I could drop Walker Bueller. He's bad.
By the way, I promoted this on Twitter before, but as the company man, I think I promoted it on a show a couple weeks ago too. One of my favorite features on Fantasy Pros is if you sync your account, you can just type in a player's name and go to his player page. You can see all of your leagues and where he's available. So I remember tweeting out about that when Jack Caglione was coming up. It was like, hey, if you want to see where he's available, sync your accounts and just type in his name, and then you can just see like either if he's a free agent or if he's not, who in your league has him, so you can trade for him.
I'm surprised here that because you and I are in 2 leagues together, and he's only rostered by you in one of them. The other one, you don't have him. So I was surprised by that. All right, who's your pitcher here?
My pitcher is, if I can go back to the sheet, Emmet Sheehan. Is it Sheehan? Sheen?
Sheehan, maybe? I don't know.
Sheehan? That's probably right.
I have really had like 3 or 4 names on this episode where I've been like, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce this. It's a price of always reading names instead of saying them.
Exactly. This one I've actually heard. You're right, Emmet Sheehan. I think I knew that was the correct way to say it. I just couldn't say it. That H was really getting me. Sheehan.
Sheehan, yeah.
Sheen, which is ironic because I also have a silent H in my league. So you think I'd be more?
I thought your last name was pronounced Maher.
You would think, but it's not. There's no H. Just pretend the H isn't there. We can do a lengthy episode on how to pronounce my name and whether or not my family's correct. That's another topic for another day.
My name gets mispronounced all the time too. Looks like Wormeli. Well, people think I'm Italian. I am not.
Maybe not a show. Maybe we just launch a whole podcast about that.
On how to pronounce people's names.
Just ours. Just our names every episode. So he is a Dodgers pitcher. He just came back. He looked really good in his first appearance. He's coming back from Tommy John surgery. We always think, we've talked about this before too, we always think that the Dodgers have too many pitchers until they don't. And then they just need all these other pitchers. And lo and behold, they have a ton of good ones waiting in the wings. And Emmet Sheehan is another one who looks pretty good. I remember before he needed Tommy John surgery, he looked pretty good as well. And he just started the other day, 4 innings, 6 strikeouts. It's probably going to take him a little bit of time to get fully ramped up. You're probably going to see a few of those like 4 or 5 inning starts because just the Dodgers are going to be careful. But he's someone that I've liked for a while. He's not like the Chase Burns pedigree, but he's someone who, he's like a 6th round pick, so he's not like a 1st round pick kind of a guy, but he's someone that the Dodgers have liked for a while, who has had success throughout the minor leagues, and that it's pretty clear that they like. And I think even though they have some pitchers potentially coming back, if Blake Snell ever returns, if he ever makes that Dodgers debut, but he's someone you can get right now, who you can get, he's not rostered in a ton of leagues, and you can get a lot of value out of him, especially pitching for a really good team like the Dodgers. And so you should pick him up.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. Good case. Hit me with some deep league targets, and we'll get out of here.
So deep league targets, the one I was going to mention was Chase Burns, and then you stole him as your favorite pitcher. I didn't even realize that.
I definitely had him in there first, so you stole him as a deep league.
I'm realizing now I went all pitchers on deep league targets, which is kind of fitting. I know I'm in a bunch of deep leagues where I need pitching all the time. Hunter Dobbins has kind of been on a heater, which may or may not have started because he has a big rivalry with the Yankees, and then ended up having like multiple starts against the Yankees and had a lot of success. And so the Red Sox need pitching. He's pitching very well. It seems like he's here to stay for now. And so if you need pitching in a deeper league, he's available everywhere. Max Scherzer, we mentioned on a previous segment, he's throwing a bullpen. This is why this is not a regular waiver wire pickup, Max Scherzer. It's 2025. He is now a deep league pickup, Max Scherzer. But he also, if you're in a deeper league, he still has some value as long as he can get that hand figured out and he can just come back. And if in a deeper league, if he's 60% of what Max Scherzer used to be, you can still get a lot of value out of Max Scherzer. Quinn Priester, former Red Sox legend, Quinn Priester. He's been pitching really well lately, and he gets the Rockies this week. So even if it's just a 1-week streaming situation, I do like Quinn Priester this week. And then Michael Soroka, who has just kind of reinvented himself and is pitching really well. He was this like pitch to contact sinker ball pitcher for a while. Had some devastating injuries and missed a lot of time. Then he came back as in the bullpen and was pitching pretty well, and now he's starting again and pitching very well again. So it's good to see his resurgence, and he's available in a lot of leagues as well.
I will never think about him, the Soroka, without thinking of the CBS guys at Adam Azer going, but Mike Soroka and the My Sharona song. It's just like one of those things that's etched into your brain whenever I think about him. So shouts to that show, I guess. All right, good stuff there. We'll go ahead and wrap up. If you missed our first section of the cycle this week, Rounding the Bases, go ahead and check that out. It should be available already on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to keep an eye out for part 3, where we talk about streaming pitchers and some other fun stuff. For Maher, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.